Hi, is this class 4? Oh, this is not class 4. Well, what class is this? Oh, it's class 3. Oh, where is class 4? Across the street? So I'm not even in the right building. Oh, okay, thank you. Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey, welcome there to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. I am Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm excited that I'm here. Had a wonderful week. Spent a lot of time at home this week. It's been raining here non-stop every single day. We're in December. We're in the 80s. And the rain has just been overwhelming. I have been so busy because I've had the opportunity of being home and writing a lot. And I've written about 9 blog posts this week because I've had so much time on my hands. I spend an awful lot of time with my son. My wife is able to do a lot more things than she normally does just because I can't move. I can't go anywhere. I drive anywhere in this city. I mean, pretty much the weather has been like about half the state has been underwater in the last week. So it's all good because I know that as soon as that rain stops, the calls will be coming in. So I haven't really lost a whole lot of work because I know that I usually make it up right after that rain stops. But anyway, it's a happy Monday to you all. Glad you're here. Had a relaxing this weekend. We actually didn't go anywhere this weekend. We stayed home. My wife has been so busy working on her stuff that she's been trying to launch. She's been studying to become an insurance agent, and she's working on her 220 license. And she's just, been working with her brother-in-law at his office, trying to learn and understand the business. And, she says, I'm going to stay home this weekend. I'm beat. I don't want to do anything. And I said, that's great. I'm good with that. So, we stayed home pretty much all weekend. I went to the mall for a little while and took the kids out, because it gets restless in the house being here all day long. And it's been raining, so there's nowhere they can go play. So we took them to the mall, and there they can play and run around. And she did some shopping and stuff like that. So awesome weekend. Hope you guys did too. If you would like to be part of the podcast, and we're getting lots of calls, and we're going to be putting those on the air, but join us. Be part of the conversation. This is mostly a monologue because I don't have a lot of guests that are interested in talking about pests. For some reason, I would think everybody and their grandmother would want to talk about this. And so we're not. So we do a monologue, and but I invite you to be part of the podcast. And you can call 707-395-7378. If you go to our website, pestgeekpodcast.com, the number is there on the website, right on the top. Call us, leave us your message, leave us your comments, questions, anything that you would like that you think would help other listeners with this. And I'm pretty much a talking head, and maybe we can get 2 talking heads on here. I greatly appreciate that. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. By the way, I know a lot of people are. I got a special shout out for Good News Pest Solutions. They follow us on Facebook. They're here in Florida. And hey, thanks for following us on the podcast. Also, I like to give a shout out to the IPM Innovation Lab. They're on Twitter at IPM_IL. They're out of Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. And their mission is working to raise the standard of living in the developing world by reducing damage caused by pests without harming the environment. Hey, guess what, guys? We're working on the same thing too here at home. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for following us on the podcast. I really do appreciate you following us on Twitter. Big shout out to you guys also. If you want to follow us, look us up on Twitter, Pest Geek Podcast, all one word, and you can find us on Twitter and Facebook and pestgeekpodcast.com online. And just to remind you guys that this podcast is sponsored by Audible. So if you want to help the podcast out, and listen to some great content, by the way, get some free stuff. Just go to audibletrial.com/pestgeek and you'll get a free month, free download. If you don't like it, just cancel it and you owe nothing. So you'll help out the podcast and you'll get something free out of it. It's a great deal for both of us. Also, I like to talk to you about the tech tip of this week. Tech tip. Boy, say that 5 times fast, right? If you have a problem where you're using a backpack and you buy this backpack and it has that cone nozzle and you're spraying this cone nozzle, but you can't get an even spray for a lawn if you're using a backpack, or even a good perimeter and get some speed on there, or it comes with that little plastic one that throws this mist and it's just, all going all over the place because it doesn't give you the droplets that you need. I'm going to recommend what I do. I use the T-Jet 8006 VisiFlow even flat spray nozzle. I know it's a mouthful, but if you go to the podcast or you go to the website, I'm going to have it on there as a tech tip. It does an 80-degree spray. It will give you at 40 PSI, which is very low for a backpack, 0.6 gallons per minute. So literally, you can walk around a property and do a 4 foot, a 3 to 5 foot perimeter band around this property in about 2 minutes. It's that quick. It lets you put out almost a gallon per 1,000 square feet very evenly. So it saves you a ton of time, which increases your productivity in the field. Plus, it gives you a more even spray. It reduces wind drift by applying a larger droplet to the area so you don't get wind drift. So this is it's going to cost you $3 to $7 online. It's called the T-Jet 8006 VisiFlow. Just look for VISIFLO online. Google it. Many suppliers have it. They'll ship it to you. And get a couple of those. Put them on every backpack sprayer you have there. I use it for lawns and I use it for perimeter treatments with my backpack. And it does a wonderful, wonderful job. Getting to this week's podcast, I wanted to talk to you about rotating your chemicals and about using, understanding the rotation of chemical classes and the mode of actions. And a lot of people in the industry don't really understand this. I find it shocking. When I was in the business for a while, I did not understand because I was told, what to apply, where to apply it, how to apply it all the time. And I was never taught the issue of rotating chemicals. So I am not speaking out of this high level of knowledge, but from a point where I didn't realize that for, I think it was about a year or two into this that I didn't. And the reason that I got involved in that and I questioned it was because I was at a CEU training conference, and the trainer that was there started talking about rotating your classes. And I said, what the hell is rotating your classes? Because he didn't really go deep into it. He didn't explain it. He just threw it out there, and you have to rotate and he just taught it in a way where he assumed that everyone that he was talking to understood this. And I was a new technician really for about 2 years, and I didn't understand. I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. But one of those things that I have is that I'm a good listener. And when you throw something out, even things that you throw out in conversations, I pick up on it. And I make notes of that. And I said, if he threw that out, it must be important. Let me follow up from that. And I do that with every time I'm in a conference or something. I just make notes on things people throw out that I've never heard about. It makes me curious. And because I have a curious personality, I go ahead and I look into it. And I started looking into classes and mode of action. And it just opened up a whole new world for me, because I understood what everybody was talking about, finally, about the importance of rotating your chemicals. And so you don't get insect resistance. And for about 2 years, I was applying the same 4 chemicals to everybody. They didn't tell me. They were just telling me, this is how you fill your tank. This is what you spray. You spray everybody with this. And it doesn't matter what the problem was. I sprayed everybody with that. So when now understanding this and understanding that most people that I talk to that are technicians don't know this and don't understand it. They think they do. But when you really get down to it, they really figure out they don't understand it. So, and every time I do, when I'm teaching down at the extension service where I teach the best management practices, this is a program that's mandated by the state of Florida for all people doing fertilizing, but there is a pesticide portion. And understanding pesticides and how pesticides work and all this, I include this in there, the whole issue. And I ask always the question, mostly it's landscapers, government workers, municipalities, people that work for large landscape companies, and pest control technicians. And I always ask the question, what is IPM? And the most common question that I get, the answer that I get from all the pest control people in the room is rotating your chemical. And then I quickly clarify that IPM is not about rotating chemical. That is just part of sound, basic pest control, pest management. But it is not IPM. Rotating chemicals is not integrated pest management. And most people think integrated pest management is using a combination of chemicals. That's not IPM either. So there's great confusion even among people in the industry that have been doing it for years of what is real chemical rotation. And there is a great website that is called IRAC, IRAC, and I'm going to give you the link, and then I'll give you the link in the podcast. You can go link to it, and it has every chemical class, every active ingredient that is on the market. They have a listing for how that works, and we're going to be talking about that on this podcast. If you've been taught, like most people, to rotate chemical, what most people are doing is rotating the active ingredient. I go down to my pesticide supplier and I say, listen, I need to get on a rotation program. How do I rotate? And almost 90% of the people selling chemicals don't understand this. The people working behind the counter don't understand this. This is why we have such a huge resistance to pyrethroids. And we're going to figure this out why. And what I would tell him is, well, I've been using bifenthrin. So then he'll say, well, here, use this product. It has the active ingredient X in it. And then, well, give me 3 products so that I can rotate. 1 month I do this, the other month I do that, and then he'll give me this other product to use. The problem is they're all in the same class. They're a different active ingredient, but they're all in the same class. And rotating the active ingredient without rotating the class or the mode of action will still lead to resistance to the entire type of class. Let me explain this. Let's talk about the 2 major classes that people know about that they use, and the mode of action and how that works. All right. Without getting too deep into this, you should be able to go in and do this research on your own. But let's just say that you're using a pyrethroid and you're using bifenthrin. An example, this is the most widely known. Telstar has done a great job of branding their product, and the most active ingredient that people know is bifenthrin. But let's say that you're going to switch from bifenthrin and you're going to use deltamethrin to rotate your active ingredient. You stayed within the same class. You didn't rotate. You didn't really do a chemical rotation. You did a active ingredient rotation, but you're still within the active class of a pyrethroid. And how do pyrethroids work? They're a sodium channel modulator. All pyrethroids fall under this sodium channel modulator. This is what DDT used to be. Okay? And DDT is a pyrethroid. It's a sodium. It's not a pyrethroid, I'm sorry. It is a channel, a sodium channel modulator. That's what it does. And The way it works is by, there's a sodium electrical that channel blocker, which blocks the sodium from being able, and then basically the insect gets muscle spasm the same way you get when you get dehydrated and you lose the electrolytes in your body, which is salt. You start cramping, you start spasming, you start having all kinds of problems and what these chemicals do in the insects is it modulates that sodium from connecting, so the insect really becomes paralyzed by this. So when you switch from bifenthrin to deltamethrin or to any other of the 41 active ingredients in that class, you didn't have a change of mode of action and you didn't have a change of class. You just had a change of active ingredient. And it works the same way on the insect. The reason that some may work others is because you're allowed to put more pounds of the active ingredient and is able to control some insects better, so people stay with that one forever. And all of a sudden, I get calls all the time from customers saying, I've had my pest control guy for 7 years. And all of a sudden, for like the past year, he can't control the roaches in my house. He can't control this. He can't control that. And I ask him, what does he do? He says, well, every time he comes in, he sprays. And does he spray the baseboards Yes, he sprays the baseboard every time. And does he spray the outside? He sprays the outside. He's been doing it the same way. And the customers are so happy with that consistency that he always does it the same way. The customer in the market doesn't understand that type of consistency can actually lead to a problem. You're always doing the same exact thing the same way. And chances are you've been doing it with a pyrethroid. And the customer say he's no longer getting control. He can't get control of anything. He's spraying the house. I still have all this, all that. It could be other things. It could be IPM. It could be that they have entrance. It could be that they're ignoring the drains. It could be that they're ignoring a whole bunch of things. But again, they're depending just on the chemical alone to solve this problem. And the customer is super tickled. And what I tell my customers is that you will never see me doing exactly the same thing twice when I come to your house with the exact same product. And they're like, no, but I want you to do the same thing every single time, just like my other guy says. That's part of the problem. In our business, we have to rotate chemicals. We have to rotate procedures. We have to target what it is the pest problem is. And when you're just chemically dependent and you're thinking the chemical is going to solve all your problems, this is where you run into a brick wall. You won't do it now, but you will have customers in 6-7 years down the line that are going to have problems you can't control. And you switch from product to product to product. And what you're doing is you're switching the active ingredient and you're not switching the class. Here comes the danger. We have a new class, which, by the way, is a class 3. So pyrethroids are class 3 sodium channel modulators. In the other class that's very, very popular now, and it's growing in popularity, is neonicotinoids. Pyrethroids by nature are repellents, and neonicotinoids are non-repellents. And in the next podcast, we're going to be talking about non-repellents. So neonicotinoids are from a nicotinic. It's a mouthful. Okay, ready for this? Neonicotinic acetylcholine receptor competitive modulators. Go ahead and say that 5 times fast. It's known as an NACHR. This is the mode of action of how it works in the insect. It works totally different than a pyrethroid does because it does something else. All right? And there's basically 7 active ingredients in that. Acetamiprid, which is one of the more popular ones, imidacloprid, which is very popular, is one of the oldest ones. But you got 7 of them. And if you're now going and saying, well, we're going to go to non-repellents only, big danger. I get calls, I read blogs about people going, we're going to completely non-repellents only for sprays because we want to do baiting and we want to do non-repellents. And I say, look, guys, if you just get rid of the spray altogether, you're going to have much more success indoors with roaches and a lot of other insects than just saying, I'm going to switch to non-repellents. Because the thing is, we keep thinking tactically and we don't think holistically. It's about what chemical should I apply? If I just apply this one, this is going to solve my problem. So I'm going to go now to non-repellents. Well, there's only 7 active ingredients. And here's the problem. If you use a non-repellent, you're in that chemical class, which is a class 4 nicotine or neonicotinoid. By the way, in that class of number 4, there's also products like sulfoxamines and butanoloids. There's 2 other active ingredients in that I've never come across. Probably because it's not available to the GHP market or the LNO market. Is probably more of an ag or industrial type of ingredient. But the main focus of these are and also nicotine, by the way, just pure nicotine, is in that class of a neonicotinoid. But the neonicotinoids are actually 7 active ingredients. The other 2 are not neonicotinoids, even though they're in the class 4, because what you need to do is the mode of action. It's an NACHR. That's the mode of action. It doesn't matter which chemical you use in that. So if you're not rotating the class, if you're not rotating between a class 4 and a class 3, you're just rotating the active ingredient in that class, you're going to run into a problem. This is where we got resistance issues, because I tell you, if I talk to 10 technicians, 9 out of 10 do not understand this. They haven't been taught by their bosses. They haven't been taught by their employers. They haven't been taught by their CPO to do this. And one of the things that I teach is part of my training program for either a technician or a franchisee is, you got it. This is part of your training. Understand, if you don't want to understand this and you don't want to learn this and you don't want to be a real professional in the industry, you can't work for me. I don't care how many years of experience you have. I don't care where you come from, what company you come from. Experience doesn't equal expertise. You could be doing it wrong for 10 years in this industry and think you're the best in the industry, and you've been doing it wrong. And it's not a criticism, it's an observation. All right? So one of the things that we look at is, this is something you need to know. This is something you need to understand, that you can't just rotate these chemicals and think you're getting real rotation, because you're not. Here's where the other danger comes in. Since there are no new products on the market, they've come out with combination products. So now they've combined a class 3 and a class 4 neonicotinoid and pyrethrin in one, because they're saying, well, you get both actions in one now. So now the technician switches to a product that includes both, and that's all he uses. Now he's going to create a resistance to both classes, because he's going to use that for years, because it cures the problem on the tree, on the plant, where it has the honeydew from the scale, the aphid, the mealybug, the thrip, and it's controlling the ants. And I say, you're totally misunderstanding this. You're going to create, because here's the problem. It's everybody, the human nature is to be self-preserved. There is no real talk in the industry about reducing pesticides. I am fanatical about reducing pesticide exposure. Number 1, for the technician, and number 2, for the public. And there is no real interest in the industry to reduce the usage of pesticides. You're not going to get a retailer to say, sure, we're all for reducing pesticides by 60%. They're not going to do it because they're going to reduce their sales. There's no more customers in the industry. We have all the pest control companies we're pretty much going to have. Their sales are not going to skyrocket because everybody opens up a company now, because guess what? Most of the people that open companies are already using chemicals in the company that they're in, and they're just going to switch the account. They're not selling any more product. So they're not going to be in favor of reducing pesticides. Second, the manufacturers aren't either. Every year they want it more and more because they're stockholders. They're multinational companies, And they're not interested in really reducing pesticide usage, active ingredients. They're being forced to, but they don't really want to. I mean, nobody wants it. We want to sell less this year than we sold last year. We buy less chemical than any of my competitors in the city, and yet we do the same amount. Because we focused on how do we reduce chemical exposure? How do we reduce the active ingredient? How do we get control without contamination? That's our focus. And so what I've done is when I go and talk to a rep and I said, do you realize that what you're telling me to do, unless I can use, because carbamates are pretty much out. Organophosphates are out. That's a different class. A carbamate and an organophosphate is in another class altogether. So those products are gone, most of them. I don't want to apply them. I don't want to be exposed to organophosphates. Those are ACHE. That's a class 1 ACHE inhibitors, carbamates and organophosphates. They're gone. You can't apply them indoors anymore. Nobody wants them. So you're left with really ivermectins, which have a different voltage-dependent sodium channel blockers, like indoxacarb, which are new products. That's a class 22. So you have about 29 classes available to you that you can choose from. And yet 99% of the people are sticking to neonicotinoid class 4s and class 3 pyrethroids when you have 29 others. And what happens is I show up to the counter and the guy doesn't know the difference between a class 4 and a class 2 or a class 3. And when the new product comes out, the tech is calling me, the rep is calling me from the manufacturer saying, you know, we got this new product that I think you should try, put it in your rotation program. And then when I look at it, it says, dude, it's a class 4 and a class 3 combined. There is no rotation here. You basically combine 2 of your active ingredients to make a new product. If I'm going to control pests on a shrub because I'm having an ant problem because of honeydew on a shrub, I'm going to systemically treat that shrub once for the year or for every 6 months, depending on the dosage, depending on the shrub. And that's going to eliminate that problem of ants being on that shrub. I don't need to spray it because neonicotinoids in the ground work totally different from an environmental perspective than on the shrub. When I spray it on the shrub and it has flowers, guess what? The bees are going to get contaminated. But if I put it in the ground, there are no bees down there looking for that active ingredient in the ground. There are no pollinators that I'm killing. There's nothing. Plus, there's no contamination to the shrub. Second of all, I'm going to get a year's worth of control if I put it into that shrub, and I'm going to get maybe 30 days control. If I don't break that life cycle and I don't come back and spray it again in 5 days or in 6 days, I'm not going to break the life cycle of that insect because most of those neonicotinoids don't translocate in the plant. You might get systemic action on the leaf for a couple of days, 14 days. When that system starts metabolizing, it isn't going to take it down through xylem and phloem and put it back down into the roots and back up again into the plant. It's not going to do that. So you're taking an active ingredient that's much better in the plant and you're spraying it on the plant thinking you're going to get this great control. If I spray that on the ground and I want to kill the honeydew, I spray that tree with mint oil, which is a repellent, and it contaminates the honeydew. And guess what? The ants won't want it. And I don't have to go ahead and contaminate the environment and use a product where now I'm going to get resistance to 2 products because that's all I'm going to use because it does a great job. It does a quick knockdown and it's systemic. Whoopee. I mean, what good is that? You didn't allow the product for a perimeter spray to be a non-repellent because you're destroying the the pheromone trail, and that insect is not going to walk across. That's why. But then now you added a non-repellent, and you just basically have a product they can walk through and carry back, but it repelled them on the other way. So I really don't get how that's really beneficial. You see, it's marketing, it's sales. It's exciting to see new products. Technicians get all excited. We need a new product. We need a new product. And you're not getting a new product. You're getting the same old story with a new book cover. It's not a new product. So this is where, if you don't know this, this is where most people get in trouble. So if you want to know more about the mode of action, the classes, about there's 29 classes available to you, and you can choose to rotate between 3 classes during the year. Decide whether, because here's the other danger, guys. If you put imidacloprid and you get a resistance to imidacloprid, guess what most of the baits on the market are? Imidacloprid. So if you lose the resistance problem, the effectiveness, and you want to switch to a bait thinking that it's going to kill it and you got a resistance, you're going to get a resistance to the bait too. So it just because, you get a resistance to the insecticide, no, you got a resistance to the class, the entire class, to the active ingredient, and now you're using it in a bait. You're saying the baits don't work. Baits don't work. Yes, they do. But guess what? You use the same active ingredient that you're already resistant to, and you don't know that. So look up IRAC. It's IRAC. There's a dash between them, online.org, and it's called Mode of Action. Check this website out. It's an amazing website that I found about 7-8 years ago that I use. I actually print out the entire manual. They had a PDF, and I printed it out, and I used to carry it in my truck with me because I didn't know. So then I would say, okay, all of these are in this class. And when I got this the chemical the guy recommended, I would pull the label and says, okay, no, it's in the same class. Do you need to give me something? Give me something here. And then I would go in and say, do you have this, and this? What products are available? And then I would just pick that. And that's how I learned to do it. It's called the Insecticide Resistance Action Committee website at IRAC it's a dash, online.org. And go there, check it out. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. You enjoy yourself. Hope the podcast is being helpful to you, and a lot of people are growing from this. I'm super excited about where it's going, and all the amount of listeners that we're getting, it's increasing every week. We're getting more and more likes and more people. We're working really hard on the website. I've totally ignored the website because all of the listeners that we're really getting from iTunes. So really nobody's gone to the website, but we're starting to get some visitors to the website, and we're looking at our analytics, and we're going to be working on improving that website because really, quite frankly, I just created a website because I needed it to post the posts for the podcast to iTunes, and I'm just using the website really just to be to host our feed. And we need a place to put our feed, and that's where we put it. We could put it in like FeedBurner or something like that, but I wanted a website. So I really have done no SEO. We are on the first page of Google with no SEO really being done. And we have on iTunes, we're getting some nice rankings. So we thank you for that because really, if you don't listen to it, this is falling on deaf ears. So it's really happening because of you and all of your feedback. So I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Guys, until next time, hey man, stay safe out there, follow the law, use your PPE, and get the knowledge to be excellent. You should focus on being excellent out there and getting the knowledge. I greatly appreciate you. Have a great one. Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.